GeForce Now advocate, PlayStation junkie, Death Stranding is the game of all generations, Woolly Gamer, that's what they put in their Twitter description, cited something from Jez Corden a few days ago that has spurred on a conversation. It kind of spiraled into the PC hardware stuff that y'all saw me do the last few days. Usually, what I've noticed is, and many of you continue to tell me, and I know, but sometimes, because of the fact that we got to educate, people who may be misconceived about this and are genuinely looking for answers, you have to go ahead and counter these folk. Else, they lie with impunity. Many of them, they couldn't be bothered about what the truth is. So this Wooly Gamer person comes out swinging because Ori and the Blind Forest studio head said that they might shut down due to the impact of negative Steam reviews for No Rest for the Wicked. Now, here's the crazy thing. Wooly Gamer shouts and says, PC MR are too precious to support this industry, fam. They just want to play Skyrim mods and complain about anti-cheat software. Edit, and complain about the PS5 Pro thumbs up. Now, this Wooly Gamer, I know a little bit of their history. I'm not going to pretend and say I haven't seen them in the mix of this console war thing in just observing, and I can tell you that this post is probably as disingenuous as they come. Now, they got all kinds of replies and responses, blah, 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 blah. But the one thing that Wooly Gamer is not paying attention to, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that No Rest for the Wicked is in early access. This is the crazy thing about this particular conversation is No Rest for the Wicked is in early access, and the developers could, in my opinion anyways, perhaps finish their game and launch the game. I'm not saying I have anything against early access. I think it's a nice way for developers to go ahead and, rock on. However, the reviews have been mostly positive. There are people who don't like the game or, the fact that it is, but you got to understand that early access is open and subject to higher scrutiny. So, Thomas Mahler, get to work and stop whining out there about all of this. You need to make sure that it's your responsibility to make sure that your team is getting the job done. Because Baldur's Gate 3, yes, they already had a community, they already had a following, but they were in early access for a good amount of time. You just showed up on early access, I think probably, a year ago, a few months ago or so. April 18, 2024. And what do you want from a game that is somewhat niche in this sense? Do you want V rising money? Is that what you're looking for? Then you got to go find yourself some investors. This is on this gentleman to ensure that his studio can gain a good amount of traction. I think that's probably what we may be seeing here is devs need to understand that you need to make the game that only you can make. Now, back to Wooly Gamer. If you did not point out that this game was on freaking, early access, and possibly one of the reasons or challenges that people are probably just waiting before they sink their money into the game, then you're probably just trying to throw shots unnecessarily. If we actually think about the way the gaming industry is running right now, you have to filter out a lot of these fanboy opinions. These are people who want to disparage by every means. Because I am almost sure that just recently there was a big game that came out on the multi-platform thing that Wooly Gamer, I didn't see you talking about that particular community, right? Not supporting the industry. In fact, if we had heard anything from you, we would have probably heard you say that Monster Hunter Wilds had achieved its higher sales potential at the time of launch on PC compared to the consoles. So you are either being purposefully obfuscated. You're probably being, purposefully obtuse in this regard and wanting to obfuscate data. But you have to realize and understand that when you throw shots at the PC community, you really have to, basically go back and ask yourself, why did I do that? When I knew or I was aware that Capcom enjoys its highest sales on PC. When I knew that big third-party publishers, in some cases, or in a good amount of cases, like Warner Brothers, or even From Software, enjoy most of their sales on the PC ecosystem. Steam, that's where you see it. Or when we go ahead and look at, Steam's best of 2024 or whatever it is, or games like V Rising, Baldur's Gate 3, and all of the above, right? So I think this particular conversation needs to be pointed out from all of these different angles. And so when, a lot of people pretty much had to go ahead and address this particular thing, it became it devolved into this nastiness, that a lot of these people are looking for. These kind of people, they like to, fight unnecessary nonsense that doesn't need any fighting. You know what I mean? This is just the thing where it's like, are you actually serious about what you're saying, or are you just making it up just so that you can sound like, oh, there's something of substance in here? And in reality, ladies and gentlemen, these are folk who are empty vessels. All they're here to do is make noise. They don't really care about what the reality is. They don't really care about what the data shows. They don't really care about anecdotes when it doesn't suit them. Do you understand what I mean? Like, it's just all talk at the end of the day. When Oblivion Remaster came out just recently, after talking smack about Skyrim mods, did Wooly Gamer come out to say, oh, look, it seems that the monthly concurrent user base on Steam is actually, in a sense, tracking close to Starfield? Did he do that? No, he didn't do that. Why would he do that? Why would he say anything that is positive about not PlayStation? But you see, this is why these folk continue to expose themselves as just basically those who are not necessarily allowed to speak on these issues. Because, see, to be honest, they can talk all they want, right? But they cannot be allowed to speak on these issues as people with authority. They just need to be looked at for exactly what it is that they are, which would be just console fanboys, console warrior fanboys. And in all honesty, when they speak, we should laugh. We should let them entertain us just for the sake of it. Because again, like I said, they could just say something, right? And try to run away or go fight with people or maybe rage bait or whatever it is. But in reality, this is now becoming quite comedic. And what we need to do is we need to basically see it as that. Comedy, we can't even categorize it into satire. Why would we even want to do that? And so what the reality here is showing is, in this gaming competitive industry right now, a lot of creatives are going to see a lot of resistance to pulling money out of gamers' wallets, especially when there are value propositions out there. Not saying that Mr. Thomas Mahler should have taken a Game Pass deal, but he sounded really confident when he was going in with his No Rest for the Wicked premise and talking about it. And so now I wonder what the news and the conversation is changing into with the studio going out of business. Get the game out. Let's see how the market actually judges the game, because not everybody wants to put their money into early access at this moment in time. Basically, what you're saying, Mr. Mahler, is you're promising people a product that that you claim that you're going to finish. Not saying that you won't finish it. In fact, I root for you that you finish it. But again, you can't expect that people in this economy where gamers are hardly buying games, need to somehow, indulge you in this regard. It's not something that I feel like a lot of gamers are confident doing anymore. Baldur's Gate 3, 2020, early access, that was the time to get money out of people's hands. There was a different economic standing at the time. Money was going out in stimulus and people were sitting at home. So to try to replicate that layer in this particular industry is a whole different perspective. And so I'm thinking now that this is a very weird situation, and I'm hoping that they get out of it. However, when the console fanboys come into the conversation, we ought to ask them what the heck it is that they're talking about in some instances. And, for the most part, you find out that it's brain rot. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.